Hello, I'm Paul Stryer, CEO and founder of SpeakGeekToMe.com. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to deploy the Cisco Nexus 7000 Titanium Emulator. The Titanium Emulator is a virtual Cisco 7000 switch that is running as a virtual machine on a VMware ESXi host. This video will demonstrate how to deploy and configure two Titanium virtual machines. Also setting up the internal switch on the ESXi host so we have multiple networks or different VLANs to place different switch ports into different networks. These VLANs will facilitate the ability for the Nexus switch ports to be placed into different VLANs. Once the two Nexus emulators are up and running, I will configure two ports on each Nexus switch to connect to each other and prove that they are connected and communicating via the ping command. Let's get started. As you can see, I already have an ESXi host at 10.1.2.2 and two Titanium emulators already in the NXOS resource pool. Now let's download the files needed to create a third Titanium emulator. Notice in the left navigation pane, I'm focused on the 10.1.2.2 or the ESXi host. While on the summary page, select the correct data store, right-click and say Browse Data Store. Click the green up arrow icon for uploading files and select Upload Folder. From the Browse for Folder pop-up window, find the Titanium directory and click OK. Click Yes to accept the Upload Download Operation warning. At this time, the files are uploading from your desktop to the ESXi host. The uploading of the files will take a little bit of time even though we're connected directly to the network. So at this point, let's go configure the internal ESXi switch for VLANs while this uploads. By clicking on the background, we can bring the main screen to focus and put the upload in the background. Again, while the host is highlighted on the left-hand side, click the Configure tab on the right-hand side. Select Network in the Hardware selection area, and this will bring you to your networking configuration. As you can see, I already have a VLAN 21, 22, and 23 configured, and N7K-2 is using those VLANs. Next, we will click the Properties hyperlink and add more VLANs. Be careful because there are two property hyperlinks on this page. Select the one that is closest to the switch diagram. On the vSwitch 0 Properties page, click Add. Select Virtual Machine and click Next. Enter the network label, which is just a name for the VLAN. Enter the VLAN ID, which is the actual VLAN number itself. If you leave the VLAN ID at none or 0, the frames will be left with no VLAN or a native VLAN in some cases. Once you've entered the label and the VLAN ID, click Next. Click Finished to create the VLAN. I will create two more VLANs for a total of 5 custom VLANs. Let's return to our file upload and see where we're at. For the sake of time, I will fast forward to the end of the upload. Now let's add the new files to our ESXi host inventory. Select the new files, select the VMX file within the folder, right-click, and select Add to Inventory. Give the new virtual machine the appropriate name and click Next. By default, VMware will use the name of the file in this field. Select the appropriate resource pool or VApp if necessary and click Next. Then select Finish. Now we have 3 Titanium emulators in our resource pool. Select one of the Titanium emulators, right-click, and select Edit Settings. As you can see, there are 7 pre-configured network interface cards, but they are the wrong type to work on ESXi host. They are all set to flexible, and we need them to be at E100. I'm going to delete all 7 of the network interfaces cards and the serial port because it is configured wrong as well. Select Delete on all these items and click OK. Next, I will reopen the settings for that same virtual machine. Click Add, select Ethernet adapter and click Next. Select E100 for the adapter type, and for this particular interface we're going to leave it at management 0, which has a VLAN of 0, leaving it in the default network. Click Next and then Finished. Click Add again, select Ethernet adapter, click Next. Select E100 for the adapter type, and then select the VLAN for this adapter. In this case of VLAN 21, click Next. Click Finished to accept this Ethernet adapter, then click Add again to add the next one. I will do this 5 more times so that we have a total of 7 adapters. For the sake of time, I will fast forward to the end of the last adapter creation. 7 interface cards were created in the appropriate VLANs. If you wish to change the VLAN, select the network interface card and use the drop-down menu to select a new VLAN. Next, we will create a serial port by clicking Add, select Serial Port, and click Next. Select Connect via Network and click Next. Select Server and enter the port URL. Enter the word Telnet, put in the IP address of the ESXi host, and then enter a colon and a port number that is unused on the network and click Next. Then Finished. This serial port will allow us to access the console port of the switch via IP. Once we are done editing the VM, click OK. If we look at the settings for the 2 other Cisco Nexus emulators, you will see that I have already done the edits for these VMs. Next, let's power the VMs on. Select the VM, then select the Console tab. Right-click the VM, select Power, then Power On. It is important that you have selected the Console tab before you power on the VM. If you don't, you will miss this important message from VM. You need to select I copied it and click OK. Once the VM is booted, all you will see is this message that you see on the screen now. In the previous section of this video, we created a serial port that was an IP-based serial port. This serial port is going to connect us to the emulator's console port. To gain access to the console port, I will open PuTTY and navigate to the IP address and the port of 9001 that we configured earlier as the serial port. Also notice that I am using the Telnet protocol. Once you have your settings in, click Open to access the Telnet session. Once the session is open, click Enter to access the console port. In this instance, we will not connect due to the firewall settings that are in the ESXi host. The next step in the configuration will be to configure the firewall in the ESXi host to allow this Telnet session to happen. Open PuTTY again, and in this instance we will put in the IP address of the ESXi host and SSH, which is at port 22, and click Open. Enter the credentials for your ESXi host and press Enter. ESXi 5.5 is based on Linux, so we'll be using Linux commands to do these operations. First, we will make a copy of the service XML file so that we have a backup copy in case we do some damage and need to go back. Enter CP for copy /etc /VMware /firewall /service.xml space and then /etc VMware /firewall /service.xml .backup and press Enter. Next, the change mod command will be used to change the permissions of the file. Type chmod change mod space 644 space /etc /VMware /firewall /service.xml and hit Enter. Next, type change mod space +T space etc /VMware /firewall /service.xml and press Enter. Next, we will use VI to edit the service.xml file. Type VI space /etc /VMware /firewall /service.xml. The service.xml file is like a permissions file for the firewall. Scroll to the very bottom. When you get to the bottom, you will notice that the very bottom entry is number 37. So we're going to want to use 38 as the next entry. Using the down arrow, scroll down to the bottom line. This should be on the /config root. I made an accident and did it at /service, but we'll fix that in the end. Use the shift key and do shift O, or a big O, and that will open up a new line above where your cursor is. Enter a less than sign. Type the word service space ID equals single quote 0038 single quote greater than sign. Hit Enter for the next line. The 0038 is the next service section in the firewall. Remember, the previous one was 37, now we're at 38. Type the less than sign ID greater than sign serial IN1 less than sign /ID greater than sign. Press Enter. Enter the less than sign rule space ID equals single quote 0000 single quote and then the greater than sign. Then press Enter. Enter the less than sign, the word direction, the greater than sign, the word inbound, the less than sign, / direction, and the greater than sign, and press enter. Enter the less than sign, the word protocol, the greater than sign, TCP, the less than sign, / protocol, the greater than sign, and press enter. Enter the less than sign, the word port type, the greater than sign, DST, the less than sign, / port type, the greater than sign, and press enter. Enter the less than sign, port, the greater than sign, 9001, the less than sign, / port, the greater than sign, and press enter. Enter the less than sign, / rule, and the greater than sign. Enter the less than sign, the word enabled, the greater than sign, the word true, the less than sign, / enabled, the greater than sign, and press enter. Enter the less than sign, the word required, the greater than sign, the word false, the less than sign, / required, the greater than sign, and press enter. Enter the less than sign, / service, and the greater than sign. If you remember, I started one line too high when I created this section. I'm going to fix this by removing the extra service down below and putting it above on the 37 where it needs to be. By hitting the colon, I can go out of edit mode and into command mode, and then hit an X to save the file. So :X will save my file and close VI. Now I'm going to change the restrictions on the file back to 444 by using the change mod command. I will use the following command to have Linux reparse the service.xml file. Type ESXi CLI space network space firewall space refresh and press enter. Using PuTTY, I will SSH to the ESXi host, which should put us onto the console port of the Nexus emulator. Notice by default there is a banner that tells us that the username is admin, the password is Cisco. Enter this information and we should be into the simulator. Enter show run and hit enter to see the default configuration of the Nexus emulator. Enter con to go into config T mode, enter hostname and a hostname to change the hostname of the Nexus emulator. I'm going to enter my management VRF and change my static routes. Next, I will configure my management interface for the proper IP addresses for my network. Next, I will do a show run to confirm my configurations. Notice with the Nexus, I can do a show command from the configuration mode without putting the word do in front of it. Next, I'm going to open another PuTTY session and telnet directly to my management port on my Nexus emulator. As you can see here, the configuration that I put on the management 0 port is working because I am now able to telnet to the management address. Next, I'm going to open a window of the 7K2 and line them up side by side so I can work on them both at the same time. Performing a show run interface will show you how my configuration on the 7K2 is set up. In config mode, I'm going to configure Ethernet 2.1 and Ethernet 2.2 to be a trunk mode. Next, I will perform the same trunk functions on Ether 2.1 and 2.2 on the 7K1. Next, I will do a show run to show you my configurations. Next, I will add the appropriate VLANs to both switches. Show Interface Brief will show us the status of our interfaces. Notice that Ether 1 and 2 are down. I will do the same Show Interface Brief on 7K2, and you'll also see that those are down as well. I will do a no shut on all 4 interfaces since they are administratively down. Once the interfaces are up, you can see from the messages on the screen that Spanning Tree is calculating which ports should be in forwarding and which ports should be in blocking. A Show Spanning Tree will give us some information about what is going on in regards to Spanning Tree. A Show Interface Brief will show us that the ports are up. Show VRF will show us the different VRF contexts that are available on this switch. At this time we only have the default VRFs, so we will have to ping in the management VRF to be able to see if we can ping between the 2 switches. Notice that pinging to the VRF ID does not work. You have to use the word management after VRF to get the ping to work. As you can see, now that the ping is successful, we have connectivity between the 2 switches across our 2 trunks. I have just begun to explore the Nexus Titanium Emulator, but I have found that there are a few features that already don't work. I have already found that I cannot create VDCs, and I also cannot create virtual port channels because there is no LACP protocol. Thank you for watching this video on deploying Cisco Titanium Nexus NX-OS Emulator, and as always, thank you for your support of SpeakGeek2Me.com.